So the first question is just to introduce yourself and your role at your publishing company.
My name is Rahaf, and I was an intern at ECW Press. So I initially got hired on as an editorial intern, but I was pretty clear from the beginning that I'm interested in a lot of aspects of publishing, and now I'm working in academic publishing.
Would you be able to walk us through what a typical day at work looked like?
I did try to speak to as many people as possible. So oftentimes my days would be peppered with meetings that I would set up with people to kind of learn more about their jobs, learn more about their positions, what they did on a day-to-day, and just kind of learning about their career trajectory and how they landed in the position they were in. And then I would also set up meetings to try to see if anyone needed help with any of their, work that they were doing so that I can take on some projects. So it really kind of depended on the day. I just think personally, your internship is what you make of it. I think if you just say like, yeah, okay, I'll get coffee every day, then that's what you'll do, right? But you just have to just be an advocate for yourself.
Could you please explain for us how exactly your internship program was structured?
The Centennial program basically is a full-time program for a year. And at the end of the final semester, then you would do an internship. So basically that final semester, while you're studying, you're kind of applying for jobs, you're applying for internships, you're trying to land one. And the actual internship component is required to graduate. So it's essentially considered a class almost.
For the sake of people who are new to the industry and have to deal with these types of things, did you have to juggle with another part-time job, to make money during that time, or how did you navigate that?
Actually, I worked 2 part-time jobs while I was doing school and my internship. And so that's just something I've always done, to be honest. I've always been someone who had a million things going on at once. In publishing, it's so rare, at least for me and in my the stage of my career that I'm at, it's rare to find someone who's not doing 3 different jobs at once, just because it's the pay is not all there, right?
The next question is just, what was your favorite part of being an intern?
So one of my favorite things was certainly the editorial work. Was something that even before I even entered the publishing program, I was I want to be an editorial, that's where I want to be. And I don't want to do anything else. Since then I've changed a lot, but the most enjoyable aspect and the most valuable was to meet everybody, learn as much as possible in those 6 weeks. I think those were the most valuable because I left with a better understanding of how dynamic publishing is, how many different fields that exist within publishing, how many different jobs and roles and all of that. So I think it opened my mind to possibilities that I hadn't considered before, even more so than the publishing program did that.
What did you find surprising about publishing when you started your internship and started getting to know the firm and the industry?
What did I find surprising? Just, I guess, how interconnected it is, maybe. It's somewhat common sense that, you would to think that every part of an organization has a part to play and it all kind of works as an ecosystem. But I think it's especially true in publishing and especially true in smaller houses as well, because I find that there's so much communication that happens, an interdepartmental communication, and the departments seem very loose and fluid almost, because everyone is just picking up jobs and picking up projects and picking up tasks and communicating in that sense. So that was probably the most surprising, just how much inter-team communication there was.
The next question is, tell us about a unforgettable moment you experienced as part of your internship. I know it was short and online. So
unforgettable sounds it's just really dramatic.
Might be a little hard, but if you have something, go ahead.
Being an intern at ECW was the unforgettable experience for me. And I'll tell you why. It's because ECW was my dream internship. When I say dream, I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. I have been planning and wanting to work at ECW as an intern or in any capacity, to be honest, for 6 years. And I honestly think that may have been what landed me the job. I'm not going to lie. The semester of when I was about to finish my undergrad, I was thinking about, what do you do with an English degree? What's the next step? What kind of jobs are there? I picked up a job with one of my professors, and I didn't really care what she was studying at the time. I was like, I just need this job as a research assistant. But then she happened to be writing a book about the Canadian publishing industry, and about Anna Porter specifically, like women in the Canadian publishing industry. And so that, semester that I was working for her, I learned so much about the industry and so much about so many different publishers in like the Canadian landscape. And one of the names that kept cropping up was ECW while I was, doing all this research for her. And so ECW was just in my mind, So fast forward, it's my last year, it's my last semester, and I'm like thinking about what I'm going to do. And I started to really consider publishing. And so I was like, ECW, like that's where I want to be. And so I had called ECW. This was 2016. So it's been like almost 6 years ago. I called ECW, like I found their phone number online or something. And I called them and I was like, hi, I want a job here. And the person who I spoke to was like really lovely on the phone. And she was like, okay, dear, like, here's an email, like just email this person and, send your resume and whatever and see what happens. And I was like, okay, cool. So then I took down, it was Jack David, who's the publisher at ECW. I took down Jack David's email and I sent him this email, and it was like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and it was just so naive. I was like, hi, I want to work here. And I mentioned nothing about what would make me a good candidate and like, why publish it, why ECW specifically, all the things that they teach you in publishing school, which is why you should go, I didn't know any of that. So I just basically was like, I really want to work here. And then I sent my resume, and then I was like, we'll see what happens. And he sent me a really kind, polite, gracious no. But he told me, the reasons why. Like he said, this is what you should include in your application. Here's what's missing. And it was like really helpful. And then he also mentioned, typically we hire students, or we hire people who have completed a publishing degree. And that was the first I've ever heard of a publishing program. And so I was like, okay. And then he mentioned Centennial as one of them. So then fast forward, I decided to do my master's first before doing publishing school. And then when I finished, I was like, I'm going to do publishing school at Centennial because that's what Jack David suggested. So then that's what I did. I went to Centennial, and then ECW, towards like the internship period when people were applying, they had posted that they were looking for an intern. So I was like, this is my time. This is my moment. And I applied and I got the job, and I told them the story and their jaws dropped in the interview. So I feel like it probably helped me get the job.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to start working in publishing?
Go to publishing school. Like definitely go to publishing school, because even if you graduated from a program that has a lot of editing and a lot of writing and that sort of thing, and you think you have all of the skills necessary for you to be in publishing, you're wrong. Like in the most polite way ever, you're wrong, because you learn so much in publishing school. You learn so much about the industry. Like I was applying for publishing jobs for so long, before I was like, oh, okay, let's try out this like publishing school thing. And I probably would have landed a job much, much sooner.